Hello, everybody. I'm so excited today. Thank you for tuning in to our Facebook page or YouTube channel. So Leandro here from FlyDOO Balloons, and today I will be hosting a very exciting FlyDOO Café live show. So we bring to screen stories that are worth to be shared about ballooning. And today we have a very super special guest, Allie Dunnington from the UK. She represents for me, she's a truly perfect ambassador about what I love the most about ballooning, which is adventure, traveling, exploration, and all of that. So she has visited 103 countries, flying a balloon in them, actually. So she might have visited more. So just a little housekeeping thing now. Remember, it's live. We have a Q&A session here by the end of the show. So you just need right now to share this live. So click on the share button, put a like on the page, by the way, and remember to watch it on the real FlyDOO Facebook page or the YouTube page. And you can post your comments there, and I will be able to see them. So do that right now, and we will be together after our intro. Here we are again. So I hope you have shared this live, and we will go straight into it by welcoming our guest, Allie Dunnington.
Hello, everybody.
Thank you so much, Allie, for accepting our invitation.
It's great to be here tonight, Leandro. Really, really fantastic. Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of your lovely idea of your lovely show.
You're very welcome. Actually, it was difficult to catch up because you are always traveling. So,
well,
I mean,
you're more lucky in COVID times now.
Right. So I did a little math. I want to show this to you. So you have been flying hot air balloons in 103 countries. So I wanted to see how many countries do we have today in the world. It looks to be 195. So this gives 53% of the world countries in which you have flown a balloon. Did you know that?
I know there's still a lot to do. So the figure looks not all that impressive when you compare it with the total figure of countries in the world. That's right.
It's truly impressive. I mean, how can we compress this into this 1 hour interview? Anyway, the idea is that we go through the major travelings you have done, the adventurous ones particularly. And then we will have a section by the end of the show where we will touch some more practical aspects about traveling with the balloon. So for our audience, and they will be able also to post their questions in the comments right below, okay? So I have like a first question before we go into the adventures and traveling. Is there a place you call home?
Well, you're quite right. I often ask that myself. But I have to say, Bristol really has become my my world home, I would say. I have never lived in a place as long as I now have lived in Bristol, even though I'm originally from Germany. But I've always moved. I've lived abroad in China, Japan, Singapore, the US, etc. I don't think I've ever had a base for as long as I'm here now in Bristol.
Okay, so you're German, right? A German citizen, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. But I have also a British passport.
Okay. A couple of passports. You need a lot of white pages, I
Well,
guess.
we do.
I see the point. So, Ali, I guess like every one of us, before becoming a balloonist, you were not a balloonist, even not an aviator, right? So, tell us about the Ali of before ballooning.
Well, I think I have a really weird career. I started off as having a master's degree in languages. I loved traveling to China and Japan were my first countries. So I have a degree in Chinese studies and anthropology. And subsequently, actually, my kind of hobby, later on profession, was being a tour guide. So this is how I traveled, obviously, around Asia quite a lot. But I also conducted hiking tours to the UK. But also in the middle of all of that, I've trained as a nurse. So whatever life throws at you, there is something.
Okay. Quite a lot of things. You've been in love with traveling since the very early stages. Okay.
That's correct. But my life changed on the 16th of November 2002 when on a trip to Burma, I had my first balloon flight. And this is when I met Phil, who then became obviously my life partner, but who also introduced me into the fascinating world of ballooning.
Okay, so he's the man responsible for this interview in some way, right?
Absolutely. And so many people always say to me, so who came first, the balloon or the husband?
So you say it was in Burma, your first balloon flight, correct?
Correct. On the 16th of November, I was a tour guide. I had lost my voice, actually, and only for that reason, and this is a big lesson in my life. If you think you're at your lowest point, you're really desperate, you're frustrated, don't give up. There will be suddenly this light coming out of the sky. And that moment happened on that terrible day when I couldn't guide my trip anymore because I was completely sore. I couldn't speak. The other joke is always, this is the only reason why Phil fell in love with me, because there was a woman and she couldn't talk. But funnily enough, on that afternoon, it was just a small balloon. At that time in Burma, there were only 2 small balloons operating, and Phil and Jackie Hibbert were the only pilots. And I had 3 clients already booked on an afternoon flight. I was their guide, but I've never seen a balloon in my life. I had no experience at all. In fact, I hated flying in airplanes. I got sick. Anyway, I then was lucky enough, there was a free space. Phil invited me to come along on that beautiful afternoon flight. And it was the first time I just thought, this is incredible. I enjoyed drifting along over these pagodas and kids on the ground waving. And it was just such an amazing experience. I will never forget. And also during that day, I met Phil, but we couldn't talk because I couldn't talk.
Okay, so you were speechless speechless for the flight, for everything.
Yeah.
Great. Okay,
Absolutely.
that's interesting. So I would suggest, I have a big list of very exciting countries and destinations. You have been flying in them. So I would say we go straight into it because there are really a lot, and 1 hour will go very fast. So let me start by one I really enjoy, and let me introduce this trip by this little clip.
Is that how you landed it? Jeez.
We've done it! Thank you so much, everybody. Wow, I couldn't be happier.
Brilliant.
Iceland. How many people did fly in Iceland in a balloon? I mean,
Well, I think 3 before me. Men. Yeah, no, I wasn't the first. I was the first female to fly there, but there were 3 others, including Phil, Horst Bellwood, and Chris Davis. I remember, who managed to drive up there, go on a ferry, bring a balloon across. Clear that there are no hot air balloons and no hot air balloon operation in Iceland because the weather is very tricky. So we managed to do Iceland together on our really amazing beach trip when we took the hot air balloon inside the old aircraft. And the biggest problem to get Iceland sorted was finding the right propane, or let's say the connectors. It was absolutely nerve-wracking. And I thought I would not get this country in my book, because we worked 24 hours on trying to get the right fitting. And there was a lovely Polish guy actually working in a garage, his socks off for me. People are so kind and helpful. And it was getting 10 o'clock in the morning. The wind was picking up. The day before, it had rained the whole day. I thought it's never going to happen. And then last minute, we got permission from the airport in Ingolstadt to do a flight down the runway. And yeah, that worked out at the last minute. It was such a relief.
I think people need maybe an explanation, because going to the beach is something else for normal people, but going on the beach or with the beach for you is something else, right?
Correct.
So this is the beach you are talking about, right?
Absolutely right. Yes, yes. Our dear big baby, a Beech 18 twin engine tailwheel aeroplane, quite rare. In fact, she's now the only airworthy Beech 18 in this country still flying. We still own her. We both are not qualified pilots to fly this thing, and this was our biggest problem when we had the idea. We need we need an aeroplane to take our lightweight balloon to go to places where you just otherwise cannot get a balloon. And such a place was Cuba.
Is that real? I mean, you've chosen the right plane to carry your balloon in it?
Correct. And the funny thing is, this has been Phil's idea for probably 20 years already, because as you know, Phil actually has the world record. He's flown in 127 countries as of now. And it gets harder and harder to find new countries where, you know, you might be able to do something with a balloon. So it's been his long-term dream to get a Beech 18, you know, also that he's very much involved in aviation. He knows a lot about types and aircraft. So the Beech 18 is probably the smallest aeroplane that could safely carry a hot air balloon plus people plus luggage. And we were lucky to find this aeroplane for a half decent price, not realizing that it's a bit like buying an old house. You then put in 3 times more money to get it up to spec and make it properly airworthy.
Absolutely. So actually, this trip with the beach is something that has a lot of content, and your adventure with this airplane has covered many different countries, and we will be unable to cover even that little part. But the good thing is that you have some good content out there that I want to bring to screen here. You have a website. Is that correct? That
Absolutely.
one, Gone with the Wind, right?
Yeah.
So there are some videos there. I've been enjoying all of that a ton. I'm a pilot, an airplane pilot and lover myself, and I just can dream. So this is on the beach blogspot.co.uk. So there are some nice videos you have done inside there also.
Absolutely, yes. So this was my mission during the whole trip. I was kind of camera woman and reporter and tried to write my blog. It was absolutely nerve-wracking because we had so incredibly busy days. And then by the end of the day, I still tried to write the diary and update a blog and sort the pictures. It was tough, but worthy.
So I see, I have just few pictures here. So from this was Iceland, right?
Correct. Yeah,
that one. So this is your lightweight balloon, and this is your smile after the achievement.
A bit shorter hair that time, by the way. I haven't been to a hairdresser since then, so it's slowly growing. But
great. So let's move to another country now. What can you tell me about Kosovo?
Right. Well, Kosovo certainly was one of the most amongst the most exciting and kind of scary countries. We were on our mission actually The aim was to go to Montenegro, which was a country that Phil hadn't flown in. I still at that time had lots of countries in Eastern Europe that I haven't flown in. We drove in our transporter van with a small lightweight 2-person balloon in it. And we were just coming through Kosovo again, quite some border problems, not so much the balloon, just generally getting into the country. But it was literally that that week or 2 weeks ago, we heard that NATO has finally opened up airspace. Until that time, I think it must have been, the time passes 6-7 years ago, that they withdrew controlled military airspace over the whole country. So it was open to civil aircraft, which we are. So we decided, you know, from a legal point of view, we were allowed, we had licenses, our balloon was registered, etc. So it was just finding a space. And the problem still was that it was heavily landmined. The whole country was still full of landmines. So we thought, how can we find out where it would be safe to fly? We stayed in a little guest house and we pretended we were bird watchers. And we said, can we walk around the scenery here? Is it safe to go for walking and get out early in the morning and look for birds? And the guy said, yeah, everywhere you see sort of agricultural land, it should be fine. So anyway, that morning it was really foggy. That night had a tremendous thunderstorm, something I've never seen. So quite misty and hazy. Yeah. And because we both needed that country desperately in our logbook, we both had to fly. So we had to leave the car behind and literally both took off, locking up the car quickly, so sorting the fan out. And we flew for, I think, about 20 minutes. It was very calm. And as we landed, this guy just in your picture came up and we thought, oh, God, what's he going to say? You know, you just don't know. They obviously have never, ever seen a balloon. We were really the first ones to try this. It turned out this lovely guy was a Muslim farmer, and he even spoke German, so I even could communicate with him. And he was so kind, and then even invited us to his family, and we had tea with the family, and it was a wonderful experience.
Impressive, yeah. Not the country where we have flown a balloon, I guess, as well. So,
by the way, it's still sort of disputed whether Kosovo is a full-blown country. Just to say that, but I think over 80% of countries in the world accept that Kosovo is an individual country, individual independent state. Some still dispute that, but we go by the majority.
Okay. Okay. So let's move to another one. Let's change from really continent. Let's go to Cuba a bit. Right. Tell us about Cuba.
Well, the whole idea why we needed that aeroplane really was that it was a long-standing dream to fly a balloon in Cuba. We had traveled through the entire country in 2007, which was quite early. I hired a car at that time on a Around the World project, but we didn't have a balloon, of course, at that time. And of course, there aren't any balloons in Cuba. And how would you get a balloon to Cuba? And as you also know, it's very difficult with its borders to America. So even on this trip, it probably was the country that we worked longest, including getting this aeroplane sorted and kitting out the balloon and everything else. We probably worked 4 years or 5 years to finally make Cuba happen. In terms of permissions, this was certainly a country where you definitely needed full permission by everybody, the CIA, etc. to get allowance to bring a balloon into the country and to make a flight. So huge amounts of work. We were lucky we had, funnily enough, support from the Belgian embassy up there, the big beer brewers. And somehow we had a connection to some guys there who were extremely helpful. And in the end, the local aero club helped us a lot. And we had the most amazing welcome as we arrived. I don't know whether you've got a picture of all these lovely tiny air cadets all dressed up in their Cuban uniforms. It was such a highlight. That was one of the most incredible and really tearful moments when we finally touched down with a Beech balloon inside in Cuba here. Really fantastic. And we managed in the end 4 incredibly beautiful flights in Vinales. This is this beautiful limestone area. there it
Okay.
is. Yeah. So again, a fantastic area. When we visited there 12 years ago, we thought this would be a scenery where you would be flying, and we managed to do that. Again, it was all guesswork, what the winds would be doing, and quite tricky. But you also can see some guys were here skydivers, and here I'm embracing Isolde. She was the Belgium embassy lady,
Okay.
and a lot of the military helped us as well. Yeah.
Impressive. So you were the first balloon, right, in Cuba, you said?
Yeah, there was Javier from Spain. I think he did a tether once in Havana for a film shoot, but I don't think he's done any free flying. So, yeah, that certainly was an incredible moment, and we wish we could come back. It's such a wonderful country, but still desperately poor. No internet, nothing in the shops. It's still really, really poor. But the people are wonderful. And again, this is what drives us to do these things, but you might come back to that later.
I imagine. So let's change continent once again. Let's jump to Africa now for some Ethiopia, maybe?
Yes, sure. Why not? Do you have a picture? Makes it easier to talk about things. So Ethiopia, we were actually working with a Dutch company. So we were employed pilots at that time, flying quite a big, large balloon of 300 or something it was, trying to run a business out of Addis Ababa, which is not quite the easiest place in the world because it's a big valley. Addis has huge mountains up to 12,000 feet or something. So you're flying at very, very high altitude. That's why all our runners go to Ethiopia to train their lungs and get good oxygen. But flying certainly was very difficult. There was a lot of problems also with first permissions and then vehicles and stuff. But we had some fantastic time. Again, the people are wonderful in Ethiopia. We had some incredible time. It's a very beautiful country. And as you could see, we were one of the first ones again flying there. So whenever you landed, the whole villages would be running after you. It's beautiful scenery and a really worthwhile country to visit. I'm not sure whether the balloon operation is still working. It was called Abyssinia Balloons. You could look that up. Certainly worth a country to visit.
Okay, this brings me to Lesotho. Actually, it's also a small country that I don't know if it was on the same trip or another one was probably nothing to do.
No, this was a surprise trip. Now my husband hates camping, but bless his soul, for this particular trip, and it was a complete secret. It was for one of my bigger birthdays. He dragged me to Heathrow. He didn't tell me where we're going. And we flew down to Johannesburg. And I still have to laugh. He had hired a camper van, which is something Phil does not do. Those who know him will laugh now too. And we had brought our little hopper with us. And the first problem we found was that camper vans don't have big enough doors to fit a fan nor an envelope through. So it was hard work to squeeze our balloon kit into a camper van. As big as it is, the doors are very narrow. But we drove around the country, and again, with the help of a local South African, we went into Lesotho, which, like you say, is a tiny country, very mountainous, very difficult. But we had a brilliant flight in the hopper. And of course, we had to do a changeover because, again, both Phil and I both wanted to fly, but the hopper is a single-seater balloon. So we had to make an intermediate landing. Phil, normally I allow him to fly first if it's a new country for him. And then we managed to swap over, and I did the second lot. It was brilliant.
Exciting. I mean, I see the pictures and I can just imagine with all these people.
Yes. This is the great thing, that so many times you find local people who also are amazed to see this thing, and they just want to come and help and be part of the fun.
Okay, so let's move to some islands now again in Oceania. I have in my list Philippines, the Philippines.
Right. Yeah. A wonderful country that I had visited before, actually, 30 years ago on a backpacking tour. And even then I left it. But of course, there's Joy Roa, a long-standing great friend of Phil's, organizer of many balloon fiestas there. But we've actually haven't joined the fiesta on our occasion. We went privately to the Philippines, but obviously linked up with our friend from Manila. And we did a flight in one of his balloons in the Philippines. So it's a beautiful country, definitely worth also a visit with. Again, all the children. I love my children.
Yeah. You're the star.
No. The children are the stars. And again, I think this is so inspiring. I mean, this is what I love about the thing. You meet these kids and you think, well, you know, you invite them into the basket, you try and talk to them. There's something new maybe to their lives. And who knows, maybe us landing there and them once seeing a balloon could inspire them to try something in aviation and flying.
Absolutely.
I hope so.
It's the first spark that, I mean, it happened for many of us in the same way, a little spark that from an episode that you would never imagine in perspective that it will condition the rest of your life. But yeah, pretty funny to remember the old times.
Yeah, for sure.
So what do I have here? We had so many. And let me remember everybody watching here, if you're curious about the country, just drop the name in the comment, because chances are very high that Allie has flown into that country. And she actually, there are more chances that you've flown there than the opposite. So please don't be shy. Make your comments down below in the Facebook page and or in the official YouTube channel, not on a reposted one. Otherwise, I cannot bring the comments to screen. So I have Libya. Let's go to a desert again. Tell us about Libya.
Well, Libya was quite an amazing adventure. It was actually a bit of a story because we were so lucky. We went there. Again, my brain is overwhelmed with too many countries in too many years, but it was just the year before Gaddafi and the war. So we were extremely lucky. But there were already disputes between the son of Gaddafi and the Schengen countries, because originally there was a balloon cum car rally planned. And me and 3 other teams were the invited pilots, balloonists, to join a car rally through Libya. But then there was this crisis between Gaddafi's son, and he was at that time in Switzerland, and they had a big row and fallout. In the end, nobody coming from a Schengen country was allowed to enter Libya. So the whole car rally got cancelled. Luckily, all we pilots, all the balloonists were from the UK, including myself. I think it must have been 2009. This is when I got my British passport. I was super lucky to be calling myself a Brit at that time. And so 4 balloons, we went out to Libya, and we toured the entire country, had some incredible, beautiful flights in Sepha, which is Gaddafi's birth home town, massive sand dunes, stunning scenery. But also we flew very, very close to that's in these sand dunes. Yeah, absolutely fascinating. I love sand dunes for ballooning. And this is really right down in the southern border. Incredible, beautiful rock formations, and we were camping again, Phil, and yeah, so 4 balloons were lucky enough to tour the entire country, and it was certainly one of the most memorable trips I did, because also of the rarity of having it done just at the right time. Any year later, you know, you couldn't go to Libya anymore, which is a shame. Again, our drivers, our crew, our cooks, lovely, lovely people, very intelligent. We had great exchanges about everything. And it makes my heart sad that the country is still so struggling these days.
It's, I think, the frustration I also share, and many people. I mean, traveling nowadays, it's not what it was, I think. We will go into that later on about your tips and vision about that, but we've lost something today, and in a very short span of time. I mean, anyway, you are still showing us that things are possible. So this is very, very good.
Sure.
But harder, much harder, maybe.
Much
so
harder.
I have another country that drives and sparks my imagination, also like a remote country with not many people, and this is Mongolia. I've seen some very, very nice videos and content out there about your trips. I think you've been there more than once, winter and summer, right?
Correct. Yes. Yes. Yeah. I even lived there in '92, just after my university graduation. I lived one winter in Ulaanbaatar. So it was very tough. Mongolia at that time was extremely poor. It just had become independent and sovereign from Russian kind of supremacy. So there was nothing to be had. But yeah, it was always my dream to come back and see Mongolia in the summer when it's green, when you can travel, because in the winter traveling obviously is really hard. So in 2010, I organized the first Mongolian balloon rally. And again, we shipped 4 hot air balloons out from different countries. I think there was a German team, there were 2 British, and a Swiss team. That's right. And in conjunction with a travel agency, we organized a beautiful trip around the country, and we flew in various destinations like the Gobi Desert, but also over the famous Genghis Khan city of Karakorum, and in the mountains in the Altai region. So it's a country that's really deep down in my heart. I love it. I love empty, vast spaces, horse riding, and obviously you look at the scenery. It's absolutely perfect for flying.
It's just impressive. What about, however, I have some understanding that the winter flying in Mongolia has been, we can say, sporty.
Very sporty. Yeah.
Have a look at that.
With a nice downhill drag landing and just stopping before the valley, before the camps here. Oh, my heart is definitely still beating because it was a very challenging flight. The burn actually performed really well, but the winds were quite funny. Oh, unbelievable. Here we are in the middle of nowhere. But what an exciting flight. It was just extraordinary. I'm so happy today. We have to have a celebration with our Russian sparkling wine and get warm in a minute, but amazing. Half an hour winter flying in -25 in Mongolia. Here we come.
Yeah, I have to laugh at this. So it was my crazy idea to think, well, the winters are beautiful in Mongolia. It's freezing cold, it's snow, it's mostly clear skies, so the wind should be calm. Why not go ballooning? We all go to the Alps in the winter, in January, February, fantastic mountain flying in the snow, yeah. But yeah, so I had left my balloon there anyway, and I came back in December to try some real Mongolian winter flying. But as you say, sadly, it was actually extremely windy. And in these 10 days that I was there, I could only manage 2 flights, which was quite disappointing, I have to say. Shame. But
Okay.
that flight was certainly memorable.
Okay. Very interesting. I have, I mean, the pictures of Mongolia really drive me crazy. I mean, I've chosen it as a landscape for the interview, by the way, if you're right there in the middle.
Absolutely.
So,
well, I'd love to organize another trip, so watch the space. It's a country that I could always go back to. Definitely. I think a balloon tour in September, early September, is a great time to go back there, and would love to do that again.
So we got covered now some big trips in many different continents. So I have someone commenting here in the comments that someone is asking, Balloon Clips is asking, have you been to Uzbekistan?
No, there is a country that's definitely on my hotspot list, and we were planning to go and do a big dance tour, but then COVID came along and all the travel plans had to be postponed. But it's definitely on my list. There have been balloons in Uzbekistan. There's even the first trained Uzbekistani female pilot, Edgora, who lives in Dubai. She's from Uzbekistan, so there's even a little balloon club. So Uzbekistan certainly should be doable in the future. I really hope. I have visited Uzbekistan twice as a tour guide. It's a beautiful country. I mean, all the classic cities like Samarkand and Bukhara, Shiva is a wonderful country. So yeah, it's on my big list.
Okay, so Ali, I have, we've discussed a bit. I have a list here: Honduras, Georgia, Andorra, San Marino, Guyana, Swaziland, Mauritius. I would love to stay here hours. You want to pick some up about them? Maybe Andorra, San Marino, the tiny ones. How did you manage to fly in such a small place?
Sure. Well, I think Andorra certainly was a really, really difficult one. I was kindly invited to the balloon meet in Vic a couple of years ago, which is beautiful, run by Mikhail. And I got in touch with Jorge. He is a balloon pilot flying in the beautiful valley just outside of Andorra, but his family is from Andorra itself. So the plan was, and kindly Ultramagic lent me a hopper balloon, which I picked up in Igualada, and together with Jorge, we tried to find a space in Andorra to go ballooning. Now, Phil has picked off Andorra maybe 15, 20 years ago when there still was a little bit of grass available in Andorra. Sadly, in today's world, nearly all the valleys, anywhere that you could live and build a house onto is built up area. We did our recce drive, and there was hardly a piece of flat land or grass where you could make a balloon flight. So that was the first problem. And then the second problem was on the day we wanted to fly. Sadly, the winds were far too strong. We had to give up and go back. And I had to traipse 3-4 hours back again on another day, when both Jorge and I actually managed a lovely hopper fly down that valley that we had found. And so, yeah, that was a very, very difficult country, I have to say. San Marino, again, a tiny, tiny country, basically exists of a rock and a bit surrounding fields, and then you're in Italy. So I think I still could claim to having made the first domestic ever flight in San Marino, because most people have flown from San Marino outside into Big Italy. So you take off near the rock, and in the morning there's a downwind, katabatic wind bringing you out to Italy, and you land anywhere in Italy. But my winds didn't work in the morning, so I had to do an afternoon flight when the wind was the other way around. So I took off, and I was again in a hopper heading straight towards the big rock. Not so great to land, but I managed to find somewhere, and so I took off within San Marino and landed within San Marino.
Okay.
And again, yeah, that was great.
Impressive. So you were talking right before about the difficulties of flying in Andorra for weather, etc. And I have here in the list a whole category of countries which have been very hard for one or the other reason. I have Honduras, which is the hard in all categories, actually. So what about Honduras? I mean, security issues, I think. Wow.
Yes, yeah, for sure. I mean, as you know, Honduras, El Salvador are sort of one of the most sort of classified dangerous places on the planet right now, with criminal gangs and all sorts of stuff. So just getting across the border, we had to bring gas from actually Costa Rica across into then Honduras. So already the border was a problem with the gas. We suddenly needed a gas certificate back from Costa Rica. That was difficult. And then again, just finding a safe space. So normally, if we don't have the time to, I mean, in some countries, it's just impossible to apply to your CA or whatever. So we try and find sensible places in the country where we're outside airspace. We find a field, either ask the farmer, or if it's just open pasture land, just go somewhere. But still, you need to be sensible and find the right space where you feel it's safe. And then also, of course, find the right weather slot, which is another tricky one. So yeah, a couple of these places, including Honduras, were certainly a big challenge from all those points of view, getting the balloon into the country, finding a location, getting the weather together, and the help of local people. That was challenging.
Ali, before we jump into maybe a part of some more practical aspects, I want you share with us your experience for those balloonists that want to go out and have their first adventure. You want to pick some specific country you want to tell us about, maybe.
Yeah, where to start?
Yeah.
I mean, even I have to admit, I sort of looked at my logbook today, and then you kind of go through the countries here, and there are quite a weird jumpy number between suddenly Iran, and the next one is Cambodia, and then Ecuador, and then Nicaragua.
Oh my God! And Cambodia and Ecuador. What? Oh my! Impressive.
So really, I mean, I don't know where to start really, but I think sometimes, you know, obviously if there's a local pilot, and again, this is where the modern world of Facebook and social media is a great help, because you can try and find out if there is already somebody, maybe not even a balloonist, but somebody in aviation who might be keen to help you. Any help, any local contact, or if you know even a local balloon pilot, is always the best thing to start talking to, ask advice about the weather, the conditions, permissions, etc. Link up with these guys. That's a fantastic way to start. If not, obviously, it takes you a lot more preparation, and you need to really think the whole expedition through in your head. And so many times, even with the best preparation, you will still run into problems on the spot. But I think this is also what I love about it. It's a challenge, isn't it? And
it's a troubleshooting, actually, right? You need to have a big list of issues, basically, and you have to go one by one. And sometimes it goes fast, and sometimes, like Cuba, 5 years, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So before we dig into the practical aspects about traveling with the balloon, if you don't have a twin-engine airplane, what's in your list for the future? Because I mean, 103 are on your logbook, but I don't know. We didn't discuss about this, but I'm sure that there are a couple of countries out there that you struggle to go, and that are really something you want to do. So which ones are those, if you want to share with us?
Well, as I said, we had a big hope to do all the stans, including the really, really tricky ones like Turkmenistan, which again, I was fortunate enough once to visit on a big Silk Road tour guiding trip. So I've visited Turkmenistan, but as you know, it's as difficult as North Korea, which is another country where I've been twice to as a traveler. But obviously nobody ever has had the permission to fly a balloon in North Korea, but it's still on our list. We're still working through different channels and a lot of patience. Who knows, maybe one day. So Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, another super dodgy country, but there could be a chance to do even something in that country. So these are sort of the close target ones. I reckon, because of course I'm lucky enough through Phil that I'm starting in my logbooks to tick off the really difficult ones, because Phil has 127 countries and it's getting even more difficult for him to find something that's unusual and doable. Remember that there must be about 50 countries that are just tiny wee islands in the Pacific, and you probably could not even physically fly there because they're full of a mountain rock or jungle or the sea. So There are a lot of countries that are just not possible. I guess that I've still got probably 15 on my list that are easy, in the sense that I, for example, have not yet done Russia. Also big on my list, but of course there are balloons. So I would just try and link up with some lovely Russian pilots and try and get myself there. And the same story for Brazil and Chile. So some of those countries, I know I could just get myself hopefully there, link up with somebody and do it.
Your retirement, then focus on the difficult ones now.
Exactly, yeah. So once in my wheelchair, I can do the quotes easy ones. Let's do the really tricky ones together with Phil. When again, and this is the great thing, that we are both loving what we're doing, because so many times you really need that teamwork. At least you need another fellow pilot or super experienced balloon crew to help you with a lot of last minute issues. We've had that many times, that we really could work as a logistics last minute team together, and I quickly do that and Phil does that, and only that's how we can grab a slot. Because remember, ballooning is down to sometimes minutes of catching the right weather and wind slot. You don't have the whole day to do your flight. That's really important.
Absolutely. So I remember, people, if you want to know something, we are approaching the Q&A section of our show. So remember to write a comment down here. I will bring up to screen. We got many covered. There are many people that know you saying hello. I want you, we focus a bit on tips, suggestions, practical aspects. I have a couple of questions here for you that I think are interesting. So, okay, best ways to travel to a country. You've explored many options, I think, more than what many of us can, most probably. So how to approach these? Because, you know, we have the logistics of traveling with a balloon, the permission of bringing on an airplane. So how would you articulate that, actually?
Well, I think one vehicle that I absolutely love and adore is called Stanley, the Vanley, and it's our VW transporter. And it's got 3 seats in the back, and then it's a long wheelbase transporter car. So in the back is our foldable 2-person lightweight balloon. You're into lightweight stuff, and I certainly recommend anybody who wants to travel to buy some lightweight ballooning kit, because this is the way forward, and the best way, obviously, to minimize space, or if you have a difficult carry out, you don't want to hump and heave too much. So really look at your equipment, your balloon, have a lightweight envelope, and whatever weight you can save on that equipment. So all our stuff, especially also on our hopper, we absolutely weight. This envelope is exactly 32 kilos. Yeah, so no individual part weighs more than 32 kilos. So if we go to some places where we have to take the whole balloon, I mean, I'm only talking about the hopper in this case, but you are allowed then to check in that envelope or burner or seat into the aircraft if it's not more than 32 kilos. So the weight is definitely super important. Yeah, this is Guyana, where, funny enough, even the passenger had to stand on the weighing scale, not only the balloon. So the 2 bags is actually also a split envelope. In some occasions, this was again Phil's idea when the envelope is split.
The long one is the envelope, right? Interesting.
That's right. Yeah, you cut it into 2 pieces. And then at the other end, you kind of Velcro it back together, and there's little carabiners, and it's all been certified and properly approved. So another great way to save weight and do it. But yeah, certainly the van helped me around all of Europe. I did 3 big trips, one all around the north, Sweden and Estonia and Norway and stuff. And the other trips were all around Eastern Europe, right down. And that is a wonderful way to explore and start your journeys. Really love it.
Okay. There is... I think the main issue when traveling with a balloon, we can go straight into it. I mean, there are maybe 2. One is on the permit to flies, right? well, I guess you manage that the best way you can everywhere. But then there is one specific issue that we need to solve, which is basically
Yes.
that one, right?
Yeah,
Or-
exactly. Yeah.
Or that one. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
So actually, this was Mongolia trying to find a nitrogen connection to spike my cylinders fly in minus 20 degrees. But you're quite right. Actually, getting gas and what gas in those countries and having the right fittings to refuel from a commercial cylinder, a propane cylinder, to your flight cylinders. This has been a big issue in a lot of countries. Sometimes you're able just to take LPG from a station, from a normal petrol station, but many times you had to try and find a proper 104 cylinder and then decant from there. But sometimes the fittings are different in countries and it's very hard to know. So we've got a big collection now of worldwide adapters and fittings, and we can mess around a bit. But getting gas is certainly a big issue in a lot of more difficult countries. Without gas, we can't fly.
Of course. Well, I see you need to find your own way, because for electric plug, you just go to the internet and you buy a multi-traveler plug converter, whatever. But yeah, just getting the
That's right.
information of what gas fittings you will find somewhere. I mean, it's not that easy, I guess, right? You if you don't
No.
have local pilots, of
No.
course, to. So
Yeah, absolutely. So that is difficult. And of course, also, again, if you take even the emptiest cylinder, so we normally, if we send a fuel cylinder, a propane cylinder on any scheduled flights, we obviously have to completely empty it. If we can spike it with nitrogen or purge it with nitrogen, great. If not, we'll try and wash it out, tip it over so every little residue is out. We take the gauges out so the customs staff or the security staff can see it's literally empty. There's nothing in there. But nevertheless, still, there is always a bit of an issue when this thing goes through a scanner that people think, oh my God, it says a cylinder. There must be something in there. Yeah.
Of course. I think, well, certainly balloon meetings are a great way to start traveling. I think that it's a way that people can explore, know a new country, relax, because your workload is pretty low and you get a lot of stuff solved by the organization, right?
Absolutely. Yeah,
So
definitely. Balloon meeting.
you've done a lot of them, by the way. I have a long list. We have no more time for going through that, but you've been in many balloon meetings, right?
They're wonderful. And again, I think ballooning, that's the fantastic thing, isn't it? Ballooning is such a wonderful community worldwide. And again, that's what I've come to appreciate so much. And just maybe we're nearly at the end, but one of the really difficult countries indeed was Guyana, where again we had to bring our hopper to Suriname actually, and then we had to try and hire a car and go to Guyana, but the river, the bridge was broken, or the ferry didn't operate. So in the end, we also had to take the hopper again on a little small aeroplane to get into Guyana with this balloon kit. So that already was an issue itself. And then the weather was absolutely terrible. It just rained and rained and rained. Cut a long story short, the wonderful story is that the only space that was halfway dry in the entire country was a little cricket pitch as a takeoff site. And it was run by an Indian local Guyanese cricket manager. But his name was Herman, very Germanic, Herman. But despite being Indian, he was a devout Christian. And to today's times, through Facebook, and this is how communication also keeps alive, we then did the hopper flight on his cricket pitch, and did 2 hops. Phil and I did the flight from that cricket pitch. And up to today, I'm so much in touch with lovely Herman and his entire 10 heads family in the middle of nowhere in Guyana. And it's a wonderful way to connect with a very simple, local, lovely guy, Herman, the Christian cricket club manager.
I can imagine. I mean, the human side of what we are all talking here, beside the record itself, but the human side of your experience is mind blowing. I think it's certainly what will remain forever. More
Yeah,
than
and
the
that's
land.
what I would. That's what I would encourage everybody to do, really. And recently, only over the last 2 years, we went both to Iran, where there's a pilot flying, and we went even to Iraq, Kurdistan, Iraq. There's a pilot operating. So yeah, there are people out even in these countries, and you just need to go and see some of these countries that have such a bad international reputation. But if you go there, you will find they're actually super safe. People are wonderful, so welcoming, and it's a wonderful connection. And even Beirut, only last year we flew in Lebanon, right at the border to Syria, and then this horrible explosion had happened. But I'm still in touch with a local pilot there, and you know, it's a wonderful connection.
Okay, I just wanted to discuss briefly. There are a couple of things that you are very sensible about. Let me bring this picture to screen. So there is something you do there. Tell us a bit about that. What is that?
Well,
what does this represent?
Indeed, that's what I'm wearing. Actually, I had thought, what T-shirt do I wear? But I wear my Women in Ballooning T-shirt. So you see that one, which was created, I think, maybe on my first women's balloon meet. So when I became a pilot in 2005 and started the Bristol Balloon Fiesta, I was surprised that there's really so few female pilots flying there. Out of 130 balloon teams, there were maybe only 5 girls or women flying. And so it took my interest. Why don't we have more women who fly balloons? And it's become a little bit of my mission. And so in 2010, we launched the first women's balloon meet, and I've become a member of the British Women's Pilots Association, which is generally aviation, whatever people fly. And I mean, it's not only ballooning, it's obviously throughout aviation that there's still quite fewer women flying than men. And why don't we have more involved? And especially when it comes to a commercial level. And I think this is still where ballooning also, especially in the UK, there's really not many women who see ballooning or in general aviation as a lifetime career. Some do it for fun, but you could work and earn your living in that field, whether it's, as I say, flying balloons commercially or flying an airplane. So yeah, it's just in my heart, and I would encourage everybody to give it a try. I never thought I'm standing today. It was never in my head to even think I could ever be a pilot, but you can do it. And this is the thing, I think, go out and try, and you might like it.
Everybody can do it. I mean, this is certainly the message I also love to spread. Sometimes we pilots, balloon pilots, maybe that we have this thing that how can you do that? You need some superpowers. You need this ultra sensibility to manage something with these inertias, delays, and you don't know where you land and all this stuff. But actually, everybody can do that. So
correct. Yeah, 100%.
I have. We are jumping into our Q&A, so make sure there are many people that know you and they are greeting you from many countries. So very happy about that. Thanks for watching, everybody. So here you have a question.
Oh yes, well, yeah, of course. I mean, if there's a chance, we always love to take locals for their flight. Again, I just think back of Libya, and we took obviously our local Berber guide on his flight, and I think I did a video clip because you picked something up, and he was singing I can fly, and it's still an absolute memory how happy that guy was to fly in the Akakus mountain. And I filmed him. Actually, Phil was doing the ballooning, I was on the ground, and I've got this lovely footage. So of course, if we can, this is the wonderful thing again, where we with our balloons have the ability to give somebody else the chance to hop in And it doesn't need to be a long flight. If somebody just a 5-minute hop, it's going to be a lifetime experience for some people. Or even a light lower tether for some kids, whatever you can do to get people really involved and touch the thing and be there is fantastic.
So listening to you singing brings me to something you told me before the show. And it's your love for music, right?
Yes, it is. You see Chinese oboes in the background. I've got a whole collection of instruments from around the world.
Okay, so you play also, right?
Yeah, I used to play the oboe and piano, and now I'm teaching little kids in Burma the violin online.
Okay, so what else do you do? I mean, what besides ballooning, music, traveling, what else?
Sports. I love everything in sports. Running, horse riding, mountain climbing, swimming in cold, freezing waters. Name it.
I have actually, you deserve some, have a look, some comments like this. I mean, people love you, and I understand why. So I have there are a couple of comments here that maybe are worth covering for the practical part. There is one here. Martial Ferre, what is the practical difference between flying at -40 or -15? Yeah, that's interesting because actually in in Mongolia, it was, I mean, I think the video, it was -40. I mean, we see you having difficulties thinking.
No, Mongolia is sort of average, -20, -25. It can drop to -30. I don't think you feel much of a difference with these temperatures, to be fully honest. I would say my fingers are dead. When I lived that winter in Mongolia, it's more your own body feeling. -20 is the average cold temperature there. So you can perfectly dress up and have gloves and you'll feel fine. But at -30, the men's beard would freeze and my feet would freeze and everything would freeze. So I haven't tested flying a balloon in -40, so I can't comment on that. But it's damn cold, I would say.
And he asks also, did you ever drop skydivers from your balloons?
Yes, we did. We were lucky to do this lovely Artist series, a 5-part ballooning series. You can also find all these films on YouTube if you Google World's Greatest Balloon Adventures or Höhenflüge in German. And yeah, we have dropped skydivers over Sri Lanka. Quite also an exhilarating, slightly scary experience as the pilot, as you see these people dropping down to the ground.
Okay. So not many things you haven't done. So we are reaching our end. I have someone here closing beautifully this FlyDOO Café live show. Allie is a superwoman, truly impressive. I really thank you.
I'm not.
Well, but the message you spread is that it's wonderful. I mean, so the idea was to give people a short taste of all the experiences you have, and I will make sure that in the YouTube video description, I will put some links to your content, to your videos, so that people can dig a bit further in your adventures. And let's see if people will travel a bit more with a balloon, because this is truly what's all about, right?
Absolutely, Leandro. And no, really lovely. Thank you so much for inviting me here tonight. I love what you're doing. Again, you're a great inspiration. And I can't wait who your next guest actually will be. It'll be highly interesting. There will be so many people out in the world. And again, through this online stuff, you can invite people from all over the world and we can all connect here.
It's up to you all. So I ask you all to suggest us in the comments. Please write down who should be the next one to come to the show. And we'll keep bringing ballooning stories that are worth spreading here to the screen. So Allie, it has been truly a pleasure. Thank you so much. And well, let's keep in touch.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to see everybody. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Have a lovely evening. Thank you. Bye.